Since we ready, I'd like to hear it. Here we go.
Scotch, bourbon, and rye, yeah, we on that whiskey. Want to discuss an array of topics, conversation simply. Gonna drop your whiskey bars with the sip hitting fold. Could you pass it? You want more? Another glass, let it flow. Steady pour. Steady pour. Yeah, a steady pour. A steady pour of growing, a steady pour of sharing, a steady pour of knowing. Now pass that Glencairn. So pull up a chair, grab a glass, and enjoy a melanin-infused perspective with a whiskey twist. Yeah, a steady pour.
What? What? It's steady pour, y'all. We out here.
He was malfunctioning, bro. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
That's right.
That's true, bro.
Oh man, I get hyped every time I hear that song, man.
I mean, it is a quality.
Pretty happy with it.
Welcome to Steady Pour Podcast. I'm your poor coach, Drew.
Calvin.
Tony, what's up?
Darius.
And welcome. We back for another episode.
We back.
Yes.
Back
Yeah. How we doing, fellas?
Doing good, man.
Feeling
Excited.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't complain.
Look good, feel good.
Yeah, Tone been out here in these streets again.
Always.
Yep.
Yeah,
He's gonna be on the streets.
He'd be out
He's
here in
gonna
these
work these
streets.
streets, work these
You
corners.
was hanging out with OJ.
I was.
Yeah,
Another bottle share.
Another bottle share.
Yeah. You know, I
you
couldn't
didn't
turn
make
it
it?
down.
No.
Oh, I thought you.
I
I,
couldn't
thought
make
you
it.
two made. I couldn't make it. I had a birthday party that day. I wanted to come, but
It was
I wasn't.
anniversary, so
It was a lot of fun, man. A
He
lot of fun.
he underselling it. Yeah, I get it though. I
I
get it.
mean, always just some unexpected stuff that I'll never see anywhere else, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
He's got a little project he's working on. I talked about it a little bit on a reel I did on IG.
Okay.
He's doing like a project with different distillers that they've worked with, basically, like doing some blends in combination with them. So
Nice,
it's
nice.
really cool.
nice.
Got to try that out. So it was
Very
dope.
nice.
Good time.
Yeah. So when you hang out with OJ, you get to meet a lot of dope people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot in the
Facts.
business, and
Yep.
OJ knows a lot of people.
Yep.
But he only keeps around people that that authentic, that he likes, that he trusts in the process, that knows their thing. And so when we hang out with OJ, right, we got a chance to meet someone dope that we had to bring on the podcast.
Absolutely.
We had to bring
Someone
on
in the business.
someone in
from the business.
that can tell it like it is. You
Yes,
know what I
sir.
mean?
That's it.
So we want to welcome to the show Brandon Collins. How you
Hey.
doing,
Yes,
buddy?
sir. What's up? What's
How
up?
y'all doing,
Now-
man?
Good.
Yeah, man.
Brandon Collins. Right now, I mean, I'm looking at your resume. You had a lot going on, but right now you're the distillery manager over at King County.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
man.
started there like earlier this year. So
Wow.
Okay, nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, we've been over there. King County is a pretty dope place. Out in
Yep.
Brooklyn.
Yeah. That's right.
The fact that
yes.
we got distilleries out here, in our backyard again.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Yeah.
And I think we've been out there. I want to say more than once. Was it just?
I think I've only been out there.
Oh, Tone's been out there a couple times. I keep forgetting.
Tone's
I told
out
me out
there.
here.
Tone like once. Excuse
I
me.
may have gotten
Months.
help with a
This
barrel pick
month.
out there.
You did. It's all good.
But no, it's a good place though, man. They're making some really quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
whole lineup. It's good.
Yes.
In part thanks to our guests.
That's right. That's right. Putting in that work.
Yeah. So, what are you actually like? What's your day to day looking like over at Kings County?
I mean, when I started there, like the whole position of like how I pitched it to Colin was to help them out and like improve their quality a little bit and more consistency on the distilling side, because everything that they did before I got there was just like, we'll distill it and we'll fix it in the back end. So now we're trying to make sure everything on the front end is good up front, so it makes it a little easier on the back end for them to make
So
the
you
good.
don't have to-
And so we can have consistent blends and keep going forward with like more and more consistent blends and make even more different products later on down the road. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. So that way you don't have to fix it in post.
yeah.
It's already fixed.
You guys have made a lot of upgrades since you've been there, right? I know you were telling me just some of the stuff you've been implementing new systems in, and
Yeah, so
Upgrade.
I mean, they already had a lot of the equipment that
Okay.
they needed to excel. It's just they didn't have the background in distilling to make that equipment even more efficient for what they needed.
So they had to bring in the expert.
Yeah, so I mean, we've only spent like $1,500 on a pump.
Wow.
That's it. So
Wow.
everything else was already there and is already like set up and just needed to be like fixed just a little bit. So it's
That's
like
awesome.
fixing
That's
our
cool.
fermentation so we're more consistent. Like that pump just helped us cut down on pump timing. Like it was taking us an hour and a half to pump a batch in and out. And it's like that should only be 20 minutes. So, so it's like we took a 10.5-hour day, made it to about an 8.5-hour day, and we increased by about 50% PGs.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah, they didn't just pull anybody off the street.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? They know what they was doing when they was pulling you in. And so talk to our listeners about like your resume, like how did you get into whiskey distilling? Like where did it start for you?
So, I mean, it started way back in college. I mean, I guess I could always say it started all the way back in high school where I took chemistry class and loved chemistry. And so that sent me down the path of taking chemical engineering in college. When I was in that,
Wow.
we had some programs that allowed us to do some fermentation and distilling all in college. So I got
Ohio State,
like
right?
whole niche, and I thought I'd be more in the beer world than I would be in the whiskey world because that's what more of our classes were geared towards in college. Never really found a job right off the bat. So I started out in paper and then ended up knowing I didn't want to stay in Ohio for much longer. So got out of there and got out of there at a good time because the paper mill closed about 3 months after I left.
Wow.
That's good timing.
So that's when I started at Jif Peanut Butter just to get out of the state of Ohio and move to Kentucky. I had a lot of family down there, so it was an easy transition. It got me out of Ohio. So had some fun there, did a lot of different things with roasting there. Actually helped improve a lot of stuff there because like that's been my whole job all my life is to come in, see what's working, improve it, how we can make it better, keep the same quality or better, make it more efficient, cut down on cost. So that's what I've always been doing. And then got tired of doing that a little bit and always wanted to go back into spirits or beer. And there's way more whiskey there than beer, so that's
the place to be.
Job at a distillery.
Yeah,
and then I got lucky to find the position as a distillery supervisor at Buffalo Trace, which I started out on the second shift, so they gave me about a week's training, and then they like, all right, go figure it out on your own.
Wow.
And a whole bunch of new people how to distill whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a huge place, man.
Mm-hmm.
So we was making 1,000 barrels of whiskey a day, which you learn a lot really quickly when you're making that much whiskey every day.
Yeah,
believe it.
And which also helped because I managed Warehouse X, which was our experimental warehouse that we could do different temperatures, humidity, sunlight, airflow, all kinds of different things, see how that affects aging. So I got to see how certain parameters affect aging on a micro basis because we were getting a data point every 15 seconds. So it's not like, oh, you're just tasting it and then looking at it and tasting and looking at it. Like you can see how stuff changes and then see like, all right, did this have an effect or not?
That's awesome.
That's been a lot of like insightful help for like everything I've done since then. And then also being part of the experimental projects that we did. Like, I mean, you're doing 500 experiments in the 5 or 4 years I was there. And it's like, you're getting to see how many different things can affect how different flavors come out. So it's almost like now that I can know how a whiskey is going to taste when it's aged by just tasting the new make.
Wow, that's nice.
Cool. Yeah, I was going to ask, coming out of Buffalo Trace, what was your most, I would say, insightful or lesson that you learned that carried with you through your journey that you're like even applying to today?
I mean, you just never stop learning. Like that's why, like when people use the term master distiller, it like cracks me up because it's like I've worked from some really great distilleries and have learned a lot, and I felt like I've done a lot, and I still have not like come even close to using that term. Like there's so much to learn about it. And like, if you aren't humble enough to know that you need to learn every day and to continue to know that you need to learn every day, like this isn't the career for you. Like this is fun. Like you should have fun with it and like go out there and just do all kinds of crazy stuff. So
nice.
Would you say this is the job that you were doing? Is it something that the chemical engineer degree helped you with, or would you say that you could come off just learning on the job of what you were doing?
I mean, it goes both ways. So I think having the degree in chemical engineering helps me understand things quicker. But also where my dad was a mechanic growing up, like I can tear apart and fix stuff like it's no problem. Like having both of those
reverse engineering,
like you can pick up all the equipment that you need to pick up and like fix anything on and drop a dime. And then having that science background, I can understand why stuff is doing a certain thing. Like, so I can know why running a still a certain way will affect the flavor a certain way, which you can learn over time.
right.
I think just having that background helped me shortcut a lot of time off of it. Versus, like, instead of taking 20 years to learn it, I could learn it in 10 years. So.
Right. Yeah. Your resume mentioned smokers. So what led you away from the food science path to whiskey?
I mean, working at Jif was fun, like peanut butter. I mean, like, like it just wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I knew I always wanted to get back into like I said, the alcoholic beverage world and like either the whiskey side. So that's why I was just like, all right, let's go do this. Let's get out of here. I got the chance now. So
yeah, bringing home whiskey from work looks a lot better than bringing home peanut butter.
I got a little smoker snack. Depends on the household. I'll take both. I mean, what you like?
You'd be surprised at how fast you get tired of peanut butter too.
I believe it. Did working at Buffalo Trace and seeing like the hype behind it and like, you know, how people just go crazy for it, did that like demystify some of that from you? I'm sure you tried the whole lineup and it just kind of took that away for you. And, you know, I'm just interested to see your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, when I started there was when kind of whiskey was really taking off in Kentucky. Like Weller, you could still find on the shelf when I first started there. Same way with Blanton's was on the shelf everywhere down there at that point. Right. So it was only like a few things like our antique collection or the Weller 12 or something, some of those higher end ones that was like harder to get. Which I tried all of them. Like, I mean, Wellers are good. I mean, if you get them at retail, but there's no sense of going anything above and beyond. Like all the stuff like that Buffalo Trace makes, if you get it at retail, it's great for the price that you get it at retail. For the secondary pricing, it's like, I mean, like I tried even some of the crazy stuff that we made, like the Warehouse C and all that. We would have a sample of, and like that stuff's good, but like paying $2,000 for a bottle, it's not worth it.
Right.
There's tons of great whiskey out there that
it's true.
$2,000 for a bottle.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's like scarcity. It's like the Blanton's. Like Blanton is just, it's good to me. It's okay, but I'm gonna pay like $200 for it. I don't think it's worth that.
People do.
So
I don't think it's worth that price of admission.
So you say that there's tons of good whiskey out there. So if you go into a liquor store and you look at the shelf, how much of that would you say, just generally speaking, would you say is good whiskey?
I mean, there's a lot of good whiskey out there. I guess it depends on what you want. Like, so for me, I'm in a different boat than most consumers. Like, so since I'm a producer, I want to see other producers instead of somebody that's going out there. Like, yes, MGP makes great whiskey, but it's like, I don't want to see you go out there and buy MGP and just put it in a different bottle. Like, I know it's going to be great, but it's like, at that point, you're just a marketing company. So, so I put more like prevalence on, like, if you're going out there and you're making something, like, yes, it's not going to be as great as that bottle that's in that MGP made that somebody else is marketing, but like I can see the effort that you're putting into it, and you're continually trying to like make it better. Like I want to see that progression more than somebody going out and buying MGP and just being like, oh well, see, it's going to be great because this.
Like make it your own kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like,
And I would say you would put more weight. You would more likely put your money towards, let's say, a $50, $60, $70 bottle of a producer who is trying to work through it and trying to get better and trying to get, as opposed to like, I don't want to say a guaranteed decent bottle, but you already know that you're just paying towards marketing and not towards the smaller people trying to like hone in on their flavor profile.
Yeah, and I mean, craft whiskey has come a long way. Like when I started at Buffalo Trace, like when New Riff started up, like we kind of like laughed at it. It was like, this is never going to happen. Like, there's no way that they're ever going to keep up with like these big producers, right?
Right.
Still to the point, like they're not keeping up with big producers. Like the big producers still own the biggest market share.
Right.
So it's still a very like tentative situation of where like the craft guys like are battling to just make one sale a day, and the big guys are like, how much can we sell out in a day? Like,
right.
So you actually touched on something that I wanted to actually ask you, and that was, so I understand the perspective you're coming from a producer looking at MGP juice and sort of not being wowed by that. But at what point do you give appreciation to those that are blending with juice that they're sourcing?
I mean, there is some great skill that goes into blending. I don't doubt that, but and I tout people that are fine with calling themselves blenders, but I hate the ones that say they're distillers, but all they're doing is blending.
Right.
My biggest
At least call us.
It's like when you're going out there and you're saying, "Oh, I'm the head distiller or master distiller," and all you're doing is blending. You're not distilling. Like, don't call yourself that. Call yourself what you are. Call yourself.
You're not like me.
we're not the same.
It does take a very like refined palate to make a quality blend. Like, it's not just you're going out there, you're buying barrels, you're throwing it together. Like there is some skill that goes into that. So
especially that people keep buying, right? Like new blends that you're making. And yeah, I agree.
And you know, it's really funny because like if you're a blender and you're good at what you do, you're almost disrespecting your own skill set by calling yourself something that you're not doing because you want to tell people that you're a distiller.
Well, the problem is like most Americans don't know what a blender does.
True.
Everywhere else, like the master blender is like the main person for the company.
Right.
The master distiller is like a nobody.
Just a guy pushing buttons.
That's how like Kings County is operated that way, is like the blenders are fixing everything and posting, making the product, while like we didn't really need a quality distiller because it's like we'll fix it afterwards. And that's what every other distillery has kind of done, but they kind of made good whiskey to start with because they've been doing it for 200 or 300 years, right? So
So I don't know if you hear the question that's been thrown out in the whiskey streets about what's more important, a master's or more impactful. I'm trying to think what the term was. Which more important, a master distiller or a master blender? I thought I would know your answer earlier, but now it seemed like you're.
It's definitely both. Like, I mean, you need people on both. Like, unless that person is doing both of those things, like you need a good palate and a good distiller on both ends. Like, you can't start with crap whiskey and hope that it eventually becomes good. Like,
you can only blend so much.
Even if you do that, like, all right, let's say you don't have a good distiller. The reason why your whiskey costs so much on the shelf is because if they don't have a good distiller, they're wasting all kinds of barrels. They're wasting materials. They're wasting all this other stuff that could drive up the cost. And then that's why everything is so expensive. So that's why you need a good distiller on the front end to keep your costs down, make quality great, so then you can use every barrel that you're making. But then you need a good blender on the back end to make sure batches are always consistent. So when a consumer buys a product, they're always getting that same product over and over, or they know it's going to be consistent in the line of the products that they're used to, and not like something that's terrible. Because for most brands, like even big brands, like at one point I read Buffalo Trace is only known by 5% of households in the United States.
Wow.
Think of how big a brand that is, and only 5% of people know you.
Right.
So you get one person and they try a bad batch, even for a big brand like that, you lose that person forever. So think of that for a small brand that might only be known by 0.001% of households.
They'll wipe you out.
Like,
Right.
You're done.
You're done.
One bad batch.
It's over for you.
Wow.
That's interesting.
So they go hand in hand pretty much.
Yeah.
So so after so Buffalo Trace, how long were you at Buffalo Trace?
So I was there for about 4 years.
Wow.
When I was 3 years in is when we came and visited New York City for my 30th birthday, and loved it, and trying to figure out like how to move up here. So
You went from Kentucky to New York City.
I'm thinking about going the opposite direction.
well, where I grew up in, like we had one stoplight. So it was a town of 5,000
That's
people.
what I'm talking about.
So that sounds heavenly.
Yes,
Like,
that sounds fantastic.
sounds
You think of
peaceful.
that until you realize
Until
how
you're
much
there.
it sucks.
I don't
Like,
know.
there's no good food. There's no good restaurants. Like, there's nothing, man.
Everything is like in a
Everybody
distance. You
knows
gotta get
everybody. Like, it's terrible, man.
Yeah, you gotta travel to everywhere, like to really get something good down there. That's the one
That's
caveat
good.
to being down
Leave
there.
me alone. I will be on my
So I'll
little
make my own
farm.
food.
Yeah.
Make my own food. I don't gotta go out there.
I'm good. Leave me be. I have a little satellite. As long as I got the internet, I'm good.
That's it.
I respect it. I can see both sides of it. I definitely.
So then after Buffalo Trace, where did you land?
So I started out at a place called Long Island Spirits up here. It's out in Riverhead in Long Island. Not really the greatest place to go to, but year. But I mean, because when I started there, like the guy was super hyped about getting me. Like we were going to focus more on whiskey because we were doing 23 different products when I started there. Doing flavored vodkas, gins, like brandy, like everything.
Wow.
It's just like, all right, like we need to dial this in. We need to like focus on a few things. And like he never followed through on all the like promises that he was telling me. Like he's gonna get a Vendome column, all kinds of stuff, like trying to like make it out right. And so me and him had a lot of disagreements, and so I started looking for something else, and that's when I found Paul up at Taconic, which he had the Vendome still that I helped kind of like develop when I was at Buffalo Trace for them, because we starting to build out some like micro stills for Sazerac. So he's developing the still, and then Vendome went out and like pitched it out to all these craft distilleries to like sell and be like, here you go, like this is the setup you need. And then Paul ended up having that, so I was like, all right, this is great, this is gonna be easy, like know how to fire this up on day one.
Nice.
So got up there, we got everything installed. Only took 2 days to get everything up and running.
So, well, I mean, I'm just imagining what's it like coming from the big distillery, brand recognition, Buffalo Trace, going to small micro, right? Both Long Island and Taconic.
I mean, there's a huge difference. So, like, where I was making 1,000 barrels a day, like at Long Island Spirits, we made 500 in the year I was there, which quadruple what they'd made the year before. And then when I was at Taconic, we made 750 a year, so still way less than I made in a day at Buffalo Trace. But I mean, all the principles still apply. Like you're still going like keep all those same aspects that you're looking towards of making a good whiskey at mass scale as a small scale. And the greatest thing, like being able to go from the big size to the small size, is all these places, like especially craft distilleries, are super inefficient on how they run.
Right.
So not being able to get the good fermentations that you need. So like we're paying attention to the cuts on the stills, but there's a whole bunch of other things that go into the front of it that can make your flavors change on the back end.
Gotcha.
So like making sure your cook is correct, making sure your fermentation is correct, like making sure your strip is correct, all that stuff like helps you develop and get to the back end to where you're fixing it on your cuts at the end.
A lot of people, we're talking to Walter White.
So,
yeah.
Which, like I said, ends up costing you more. You don't get the proof gallons per bushel that you get. So like in big distilleries, you're looking at 5 proof gallons per bushel. When I started out in Long Island, we was getting like 2.5. So it's like you're only getting half of what you need to get out of that grain, which so you're wasting all this grain that's just going down the drain.
So, it's not good business
at
all.
So it's like going into craft, it's like great to see all that because it's like, how can I come in and help and fix all this? You know how to do that if you didn't work at one of those big distilleries.
Right. Because you can really see the efficiency of economies of scale. Like once things are scaled up at such a high rate, you can really like dial that stuff in.
Yeah, because I mean, when I left Taconic, we were making a barrel almost at the same cost that we were making a barrel at Buffalo Trace.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, the only benefit they had was they were selling their spent grain, so it drove down their cost a little bit more than what do there because we were so small scale that we couldn't build out a dry house and sell our spent grain.
Yeah. There was a bottle that when you left Taconic, that you were selling people that you really like were recommending on, was it the Bottled and Bond? I don't know why I had that in my head.
So the Bottled and Bond was the first distillate that I made. Everything before that was contracted through Black Dirt Distillery before that.
All right, nice. I haven't got a chance to find it. I've been keeping my eye out for it.
I hate because I always know like no matter what, you are always biased towards your own stuff. Like so, it's like I like it, but it's just like
Well, yeah, I was looking out for it. I was like, man, I want to try it for sure.
Never heard of it. Did you have your hands in the their maple barrels, the double maple that they make?
They'd already had that stuff going before I got there. I helped do so I was over all of production when I was there. So I was doing all the blending. So when we talk about like small distilleries, like that's literally a small distillery. We had 5 full-time people there. So it's like when you say master distiller and blender, it's like I was doing both sides.
That's me. I'm all of it.
So,
nice.
And then from there you ended up at Kings County.
So I left Taconic about a year ago. When we started to like look at launching our own brand between me and my wife. And we thought it would get taken off a little quicker, but it's been dragging on a little bit. Still trying to get that going.
Oh yeah,
talk about it.
Talk to us about what you have planned. You coming out with your own. What are you coming out with?
So the brand is called Unmet Queen. My wife is the owner and CEO, and then I'm the janitor.
I like that. That's funny.
So I'll be doing like production side of it while she does all the sales, branding, everything like that. So it's going to be RTD based initially. And we gave you guys a couple of samples. We got like the coffee old fashioned and the black walnut Manhattan there.
Ooh, we got them right here.
We got it right there.
Yeah,
So everything's like single spirit based. So everything has been like reverse engineering stuff. So instead of like what we've always noticed, the biggest problem with RTDs is they're taking these really great products and blending them, but when you do that, stuff oxidizes at different points, and when stuff is blended together, it kind of deteriorates flavors or changes flavors over time. So what I've done is I've reverse engineered products to go into this. So with the black walnut Manhattan, we reverse engineered basically a Chino Amaro. So it's a black walnut Amaro. Instead of using a grain neutral base for that, like I ended up using the whiskey and using those flavors that would be in that Chino and infusing it into that whiskey to get those flavors.
Sound like a mad scientist, man. In the lab, just mix it.
And for the people that don't know what RTD is,
so it's ready to drink is what the category is. So our products will be a higher ABV than what most RTDs are. Most RTDs have been in the seltzer world, so in that 6 to 8%. These will be full-bodied cocktails, like everything that you would expect if you went to a really good cocktail bar and said, "Give me a black Manhattan or old fashioned." Like this is what you.
Is that the reason why you have to be refrigerated and then kept in the?
Yeah, so it just helps you from having because we have already diluted it down. So instead of having to do the stirring or the shaking or anything like that, it's a pretty good mix for you. So all you really need to do is store it in the proper environment and pour it in the proper glassware. So we're trying to make it as simple as possible, like break down every aspect of where it's like, all right, this is it. So like when you would get a Manhattan, it would be chilled a lot. So that's why I put it in the freezer. And then an old fashioned is usually served over ice. So it's not as cold initially and it cools down over the ice. So that's why we have that one in the refrigerator. So it's kind of chilled, but then it'll get colder as you have it over ice.
Which one was the first sample again that we have?
Black walnut Manhattan.
Yeah. So that one actually has black walnuts in it. So we'll have to definitely put some nut allergy stuff on there.
Yeah.
And I actually taste it too.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
So is this going to be in a can? Is that?
So initially we're probably going to work with a lot of so I have a lot of connections with the beer world in New York City, which is great because with the New York farm laws, like if you're farm, distillery, brewery, or winery, you can work together and basically sell each other's products in your tasting rooms. So this will all be a New York farm product, which will be able to work with them. And so the way we're designing it with a lot of them is like sell them a case equivalent of what they would need to fill up like a half keg or something like that. They can put it in their keg and then they can put it on draft in their cocktail or in the.
That's awesome.
That is really dope, man.
That way it cuts down on a lot of their processing time, and like training somebody to make a really good cocktail takes a lot of time and effort.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot more bartenders out there.
That's what I'm saying.
But like a lot of the people that work in the beer side of stuff, they're just used to pouring stuff off a draft and like trying to teach them on top of that how to go out there and make a cocktail. And a lot of them don't necessarily have the time like you would have at a high-end cocktail bar, because it's like people want drinks really quickly and like want that. So this will make it as easy as possible where they can just do what they're used to and be able to be like, all right, here's the glass, you got to put it in, whatever you got to put it in. Like if you need to put ice or anything like that already, like
even in a home environment, this is pretty dope because I make cocktails too. You know, you out, have somebody over, you will make them a cocktail. And that requires a lot of time and effort, materials, and make sure you get it right. But to have this already ready to be made, and this is delicious. This is like, I think, great.
So are you not selling direct to consumer and actually selling to bars?
Yeah, so we will eventually be doing the direct. So we'll also do to liquor stores as well, where people would be able to purchase for in the house. And that will come in 100 ml bottle format. So basically a single serve, and then we're looking at a 750 size as well.
Nice.
So that the 750 would be more for like parties, but the 100 ml will be like, all right, you want to go take a walk in the park, like go put it up in the freezer, take you a little glass, like you're good to go.
Really easy, yeah.
This is delicious.
Yeah,
this is, oh my god, this is delicious.
Is pretty tasty.
I could see some. Andrew, can you make me a cocktail? Sure.
I'll be right back.
You're actually making it.
So what you have here is a black walnut Manhattan.
That was my exact mindset. Like, yo, this is perfect. Get a cocktail. I got you. Go in the fridge, pop it open.
Imagine you already figured out ways to stop.
Yo, I already had it in my mind. This
You know, it's really funny. You're definitely just gonna pour it in and just like come out with it already in the shaker and just give it the last little.
That's what I'm saying. Make a little noise.
Right.
For the whole show, like I was in there working on this one. I couldn't get the recipe right, but I finally got it right for you.
Be cocktail baying it, you know what I mean?
In my head, I'm like, yo, thank you, Brandon.
That is definitely a good commercial.
It really is. This is really good, man. I could just drink this.
You're
all
welcome.
night. You want to talk to us about the other? What is this one called here?
So this one's a coffee old fashioned. I don't drink coffee at all. So like for me, you would think like I would hate this, but it doesn't give you the overly harsh, bitter notes of coffee that I don't like. And it brings out all the great notes of coffee, like the creme brulee and the vanillas and caramels of coffee. So it blends really well with the whiskey.
All right.
Do you have something else for us instead of the black walnut?
So when you were working on these RTDs, did you have like a space that you were kind of designing them in, or were you doing?
So this is just me and my wife screwing around at the house during COVID.
At the house?
Yeah,
that's
that's
okay.
Like, what do we do? Like, stuck in New York City apartment that's tiny as shit, and it's just
start mixing.
like, how do we come up with something that's better than what we're getting? So we missed like going out to the good cocktail bars and having a really good drink, and we was like, all right, we need to develop something that like we can make and make it right. And RTDs were starting to take off right before COVID, and then they really took off during COVID. But as like I said, it's more the seltzer base.
Yeah, more the White Claws.
It's like the higher ABV trying to replicate cocktails. It's like never been right. Like they're always like it's pretty bad, unbalanced. Like nothing has been to the standard of what you would get in one of those high end cocktail bars.
Yeah, this is crushable.
Crushable.
Yeah, I got to.
It is
coffee old fashioned.
That's like 32% too, man. So
that's what I'm saying. Like
he'll knock you out pretty quick if you crush them too fast.
Oh my god! Thank you for telling us, because I was gonna go back in
and crush this.
I'm gonna take it slow now.
This is finish. It's crazy,
right? Like I'm a coffee drinker. I really like coffee, and sometimes coffee flavored anything just doesn't sit right with me.
Same.
This has a really nice, because you don't instantly taste the coffee. You kind of comes in
on the finish.
It comes in
it's
slowly.
On the finish.
It's
on the finish.
It comes in on the finish, and it's just like it's almost like you had a drink and then you had a little bit of coffee right afterwards. So like clean your palate.
Really nice.
It's really nice.
I agree. I don't even drink coffee. And just what he just said, like I was worried that I'm gonna just drink all coffee and like I'm gonna hate it, but it was just a nice subtle taste. But it was there and it was enjoyable.
Subtle but apparent.
But it's there. It's there. I would totally drink this as a non-coffee drinker. I would go for this 100%.
Yeah,
cocktail has.
That's 2 hits right there, man. That's 2 for 2.
For me, like the coffee on it, like I always get people that talk about like these fruity notes and everything that go with coffee, and whenever I drink it, just like straight bitter and like burnt, and I'm like, I don't get it. But then when we started playing around with this, like it's a very fine line to go from like the good notes in the blending of this to like it gets overpowered really quickly.
You don't want it
It is a very fine.
Yeah, I'm curious to watch that happen, man, because this is really good.
It's got a journey to it.
Yeah, that's nice. You can definitely mass produce that. That's a winner right there.
That's 2 winners.
So when are we looking? Shelf.
Like, when can we buy this?
A year and a half ago.
He's been ready to go.
Finding a production space for a distillery is so tough, especially where we're trying to do it in New York. We're very limited on like what we can use as a production space. And the other thing is me and my wife are trying to self-fund this instead of taking big investors.
And that's hard.
That's our other problem. Because if we had tons of money, like this would be easy, right?
And it's funny because if you had tons of money, I don't think it would be as good.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So I think that's what is like driven us to like make better products, and that's what's helped me all through my life is like to work really hard, is because I grew up with not a whole lot of money. So it's like I've worked for everything that I've gotten. It's like I've never been given anything.
Right.
And great. So it's like it's made me drive forward and continue to drive forward. And like if I had money, I definitely would not be doing what I'm doing or making
Right.
like,
It's got to be the passion.
Well,
why
don't you try bringing it to the Garden State?
Come out the Jersey.
So the only problem with like where we're trying to do a lot of the breweries in New York is with that New York farm law, it just makes it so hard to do it in another state. And so for those breweries, they would have to have a full-on liquor license to bring this in.
Gotcha.
That's like the biggest hang up of why we haven't really looked at other states. Like, yeah, we could probably find space in New Jersey or Connecticut a lot easier, but it's like then we wouldn't have the connections or the sales that we could potentially have right off the bat if we do it in New York.
Right.
Well, I would say you have products that are winners. So
100%.
Whenever you get the space lined up to mass produce, it's gonna fly.
We will be there.
It's
We will
gonna
be
fly.
first in line. Let us know, please.
For sure, man.
I want both of these on my. I'll say it on my shelf, but I mean my refrigerator.
Worst case, for now we can make you guys up a couple bottles or something like that.
Hey,
I will not.
don't tease us.
Tease us with a good time.
Don't tease us with a good time, please. Yes. These are really good, man.
So where do you guys see yourselves, I guess, in the next like 5 to 10 years? Like, what's the goal of the company? Like, where do you guys see yourself?
So what's funny is where you said where you see yourself in the next 5-10 years. When I interviewed for Buffalo Trace is almost 10 years ago. And they asked me where I seen myself in 10 years. And up until recently, I thought this was going to be very realized that we would have our distillery up and running because I said I want to have my own distillery in 10 years.
Wow.
So I almost had it timed out exactly right, but
Wow.
shit fell through. So
Give or take a year or two.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, you almost
we had
there.
a pandemic in the middle.
That's
That
it.
don't count.
yeah, so
Estimate.
I mean, what we see with the RTD is to be able to like grow that side of the business, to be able to have fun and do some of the other crazy stuff that we want to do. So I like to push the boundaries. Like there's a lot of things that I want to try with distilling and like blow people's minds with it, right? Like take the legalities of stuff and try to flip it, right? So like bourbon has to be 51% corn and rye has to be 51% rye. Well, let's do 51-49 on both of them. See if you can tell the difference.
Okay.
Like, go out and like let's have some fun with stuff and be like, look, one's a bourbon, one's a rye. Tell me the difference. Like,
So you're getting back to your experimental Buffalo Trace days. You want to kind of
up at Taconic, we were doing some stuff with some of the breweries. So like I distilled a mash bill where we took an imperial stout like beer recipe, then we ended up making that into a bourbon recipe. So we used mainly 51% corn. Took all these other dark roasted malts and oats and wheats and stuff like that and made up like a crazy bourbon basically that nobody will probably ever make again other than us.
I think we might have some Taconic stout barrels. Did taste look repeat?
So that is a stout finish. So that was just
okay. Got you.
Blend that we finished in a stout. This one is taking the stout recipe from the beginning and in a new barrel and then aging it up. So
okay, interesting.
So those ones will be released with some of those breweries for their anniversaries coming out. Like should be hopefully next year that we get some of those going.
Got you. Nice. So I have a question. You said your initial thing was the RTDs, which are great. When do you want to have your distillate like of your straight bourbon whiskey? You want to have it like aged 4 or 5 years and kind of like, is that the timeline on that, or what do you think?
Well, so instead of trying to like, this is where I want to differ away from like most standard distilleries. Like instead of having a single brand line of like, this is it. Like I just literally just want to have fun with that side of it. So we're going to use the RTD side to basically fund all the experimental and fun side of it. So there won't be like a mainline product out there that's like, all right, this is Unmet Queen's straight bourbon. Like that just won't exist.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I respect it.
Yeah.
So it'll be just in the same line of the things you're doing. Basically, it won't be like
Yeah, so it's going to be having fun, pushing boundaries, like making people think outside the box of what whiskey can be. And I think there's a lot of like room to play around with it that people haven't tried. Like for the most part, everybody's just took the easy path and finished stuff. But it's like you can develop a lot of this stuff in the front end too. But it takes a lot more time. But you can develop
a lot more of a gamble
that way too.
You know who I want to try this? I want Body More Bottles to try this. He should, because he definitely reviews also a lot of RTDs and or anything really with alcohol in it. I think he reviews, but I would be curious to hear his take as well. Because I think he's a big mixed drink. I think
we'll have to link you up with him. That would be a really interesting reel you could do, man. Because I know he would love it, knowing his palate and like
these are
100%.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's definitely the best ready to drink drinks that I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, like when we started trying them, the best we could find was like mediocre. Like
right.
Well, I think people go into that market thinking differently, right? Like they're probably trying to pump out as much as they can, get a quick buck.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but that's the
you don't have
it'll get you drunk market.
Well, I'm saying you don't have a Buffalo Trace distiller that's kind of, you know what I mean?
Right, you don't have somebody who is trying to give you the same level quality of a quality cocktail. Right. A lot of places will kind of sell it that way, obviously, because they're every product they want to say is great. You know, as far as quality is concerned, but no, I don't think any of them. You can taste the time spent.
Quality, right?
Yeah. Well, this is pretty dope, Brandon. I appreciate you sharing this with us.
No problem. Like I said, I wish we would have had some better news. We thought we was going to, but
well, that's all right. We are hopeful for you.
The fact these products are here, and we know that
they exist in the world
in due time.
In due time, it's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
One door closes, another one opens. That's how you look at it.
And please let us know. I mean, we're pretty small time. I don't know what we could possibly do, but if we could, we would.
We'll promote it for sure.
Definitely. Man.
So that's Unmet Queens coming up, and then I have two. It's Black Walnut Manhattan and old
fashioned.
Coffee old fashioned. Yes.
Two hitters.
Both of them
heavy hitters. How did in the Manhattan there's this smokiness? How did you achieve that in a ready?
He can't say that. He can't say that on the mic.
That's that walnut.
He can't say
that.
You know my name.
Reverse engineering those Amaros. So like going out and trying different Chino Amaros and trying to see what herbs go into it and just reverse engineering that, and it just took a lot of time. Like
because even the nose on these are delightful.
I can tell it took time, man, because it's that much quality in it.
Right,
so I can tell you.
Because normally in a ready to drink, there's this. It's very shallow.
Right. Yeah, it's like this is cool.
Right. It's kind of tasty, and that's it.
Yeah, but this tastes complex.
There's
it tastes
depth.
Smell. It tastes like you put your heart, your love, your everything in it, and it's just great, man. I love it.
I mean, when you go, like we said, when you go to one of those high-end cocktail bars, everything's balanced all the way across the board, and it lingers with you. It's not just like a quick hit and like take another sip. Like, so that's what we was trying to shoot for, was that same quality.
You shot forward, you made it.
Yeah,
I want this. I want to buy it.
Darius
I want to purchase all of that stuff.
So Brandon, I mean, hearing your background, your expertise, where you've been, where you're going with Unmet Queens. I mean, a steady pour. I think we need a resident expert that we need to bounce things off of. So we might need to be reaching out to you, and we're going to do some segments where we could ask you, like, tell us what's really going on with this particular whiskey behind the scenes. And is this BS? Or break this down. No,
he still got a day job.
Well, it's not going to affect his day job. He's just or at least explain to our listeners what's really happening. So
MGP going down with that brand.
I mean, like that's the great thing about being in my side. Like I get to go around and see a lot of these craft distilleries, and you kind of hear like, I mean, everybody pitches a marketing scheme, like big distillery, small distillery, everything. Like everything is a marketing thing. Like when you go on the tours at all the big distilleries, half that stuff ain't true. But
oh my gosh,
Speak on it.
I mean, like,
This is what I wanted. Yo,
what I'm talking about. What
I
are you
love this.
saying?
No, this is true though. This
I'm
is
being
what I
lied
like,
to.
so getting to see it from the side where I've seen it and like you making it every day, like hearing those stories, and then you go there and you see like what they're doing. It's like you're saying, oh, well, you'll make 10,000 barrels this year. And I'm like looking at your fermenters and I'm like, you can't make more than 500.
Why you lying?
Yeah. So it's fun to like see that side of it. And
Yeah.
I usually go in there, like, don't tell them who I am. So I want to see and hear everything that they're telling everybody and just see the truth of what they want to market. So
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So it's fun getting to see it, and it's fun like dissecting it, and I think some of them get scared once they find out who I am and how I dissect it so fast. They're just like
Probably
kind of shaking a little bit because I can tell like what your barrels are, like what the char is, everything, where they're coming from, like just looking at a couple things, and so.
It's like they're getting audited.
right.
Oh, wake up.
Basically. Yeah.
No, what I meant to say.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, who are you? Okay.
Let me retract myself.
Yeah, we should do a segment where we got the video camera hidden and we have Brandon in our ear, and Brandon's gonna like ask him about the ferment. Ask him about.
I like that.
That'd be
Like,
hilarious.
That's BS.
Oh man, Brandon, I appreciate you coming on and sharing the special project that you have.
Oh man,
Thank you for the samples.
Yo, it's been
Absolutely
beautiful, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, man. So I'm glad you all enjoyed those samples too.
We very much
did.
We're excited as soon as you
I'm
guys
not
got
gonna
going.
lie. When I heard what they were, ready to drink cocktails, I was a little nervous because I like we try to be pretty honest with what we actually think of particular products. Right. So we had the discussion before, like, what if we don't like it?
Yeah,
we like it.
We do.
We very much do.
Yeah,
we want people to be honest with us, and everybody seemed to be honest, and they've all seemed to like it as well. So like, I feel like we're getting on the right path for something. But
absolutely,
you are definitely on the right path.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see this on the shelves, man.
Yes. So Brandon, where can people find you?
Yeah.
So on Instagram, you can find me at the Alchemist 86.
Talk about it. Yeah. The
Alchemist.
I love it. Love it.
That is the perfect name for you, bro.
Yes.
that is who you are. Literally.
It's Walter White. 86.
Right. Walter White 86.
Walter White.
Chemist. He's in the lab.
Basically.
Yeah. I mean, we did learn some crazy stuff in chemistry classes in college.
I believe.
Yeah, I bet.
I bet.
Yeah, it's kind of scary what they teach you in school.
Hey, it produced this, man, so it worked out.
And what's the brand name one more time? Because we want people to look out for it when it comes out.
So it's Unmet Queen Cocktails on Instagram.
Unmet Queen Cocktails.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when you guys officially release, we definitely got to have both you and your wife on, and we can definitely do an episode there.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
We'll be able to talk it up a lot better.
How did that name come about, though?
So we went through probably 5 or 6 names trying to come up with it. And then one day, like, so since my wife is the owner of it, like I was just trying to think of how we can come up with a name that's going to set us apart and make it different. And so unmet means like not satisfied, like not in contempt with what is out there. So which is what we were doing with this product is we weren't satisfied with the RTD. So it's like, all right, so let's make this, and since she's the owner, she's the queen, so it's like
that's respect. I get it. That's love.
So it became pretty easy, and we actually have the trademark for it, so that's the good thing.
Nice.
That is a good thing.
That's a huge step. So yeah, it's only a matter of time now for you on the shelves.
That dream will be had.
Yeah,
it's already fruition.
So definitely look out for them on Instagram. Unmet Queens. Brandon Collins, again, thank you for joining us, man.
Thank you.
And we'll
Thank
certainly
you.
be in touch.
All right, man. Yeah. Thank y'all.
Peace.
All right.
Well, that concludes this episode of Steady Pour Podcast. Make sure you follow